Well, hello. Today we're going to be talking about how to make the most of your flute lessons. And if you like this video, please subscribe or comment below or like, and let's get started. Well, first off, let's just make something clear. Taking flute lessons and being successful in your flute lessons is not just about having a good flute teacher. It's really a lot about you and how you approach those lessons. So it's really important that you approach those lessons in a positive and creative way. So let's talk about some ways that you can approach your lessons in a positive way. First thing is make sure that you ask questions. If you don't understand something, definitely ask a question, ask clarifying questions. And even if you understand something, ask clarifying questions. And also rephrase what they're saying. So if they say something, if your flute teacher says something, kind of rephrase or summarize what they said and say it back to them and ask, is this what you said? Just to make sure that you understand what they're saying so that you can do what they're saying to a T, because you want to make sure that you're understanding what they're saying, because sometimes you might think you're understanding what they're saying and in reality you actually might not be understanding what they're saying. So make sure that you're always understanding what they're saying by asking questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Make sure that you are asking questions. You are paying for these lessons, so make sure that you get your full money's worth. So ask those questions, ask those questions. Your flute teacher is a wealth of knowledge. Ask as many questions as you possibly can. My personal favorite tip is to listen. And that might seem so easy, but listening is so important. Sometimes we get so excited to play that your flute teacher is talking and they say something and you're like, oh, I understand what they're saying, and you kind of jump the gun and you start playing, sometimes even before your flute teacher stops talking or the second they stop talking. So let them finish what they're saying, kind of let what they said kind of echo in your head. You think about it a little bit, kind of hear in your ear's mind, or your mind's ear, or whatever you want to think. Kind of think over it and hear it in your head and then play. Don't just jump the gun and start playing right away. Kind of listen to it, mull about it, and then play. So make sure that you're listening. Listen to everything they have to say. Next tip is to keep a notebook. Keep a notebook and keep track of what they say to practice. Keep track of what they say as tips. Keep track of what they say as feedback. Keep track of what they say as inspirational quotes or inspirational feedback. And when you have this notebook, bring it to your lessons, write things down, refer to it in your lessons, refer to it in your practice sessions, refer to it before you go to bed sometimes, refer to it just anytime. But keep a notebook of what you do in your lessons, keep a notebook of what you do in your practice sessions, and just write down everything that you do so that you can keep track of your progress. You can keep track of what your flute teacher is saying, and you cannot forget anything, because it's really important that you don't forget anything. Let's talk about your practice time. So during your practice time, definitely refer to your notebook that you're keeping for your lessons, but also keep your practice time sacred. Do not go on your cell phone and go on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or text your friends. Keep your practice time sacred. Keep that 2-hour block or that hour block or that 3-hour block. Keep that practice time sacred. Close the door. Keep it sacred. Don't let anyone bother you. Make sure that your practice time is sacred. Also, during your practice time, don't do side projects. I mean, you can do side projects in your own time, but when you're practicing for your flute lessons, make sure that you're not doing side projects that you want to do for yourself. Make sure that your practice time is focused on what your flute teacher has assigned for you. Because if you're doing side projects for yourself, you're not going to improve in your lessons. Your flute teacher has a specific goal and a specific method to making you successful. And if you're not practicing what she has told you or he has told you to do, then you're not going to be successful and improve in the way that she or he has outlined for you. So make sure that you are doing what she or he has outlined for you and not doing side things. So many times as a flute teacher, I've had students come in and they're like, oh, I worked on this, oh, I worked on this, and I'm like, well, did you work on what I assigned you? And they're like, no. And I have given them certain tasks so that they can get better on X, Y, and Z, and if they're working on such and such, then they're not going to get better on X, Y, and Z. So it's really important that you do what your flute teacher has assigned for you. So make sure that you can do side projects, but make sure that you make time for what your flute teacher has assigned you. Also, make sure that you do the hard bits. There are going to be things that are difficult that your flute teacher has assigned you. There are going to be things that you don't want to do. They're going to be hard and difficult. For me personally, when I was starting out, I did not like scales. I hated scales. But I always made sure that I did my scales first. Always do the things that you don't want to do or that are hard or difficult for you. Make sure that you do them first so that you make sure that you get them done. Don't like rush through them just to get them done, but make sure to do them first and do them with fidelity so that you are making sure that you are getting time to do those things first so that you are getting them done. Do the hard things first. Don't do the easy things first, because if you do the easy things first, then you might not get to the hard things. But make sure you do the hard things first, because the hard things, well, they're the hard things, you know? And the easy things, well, they're the easy things. So make sure you do the hard things first and save the easy things for later, so that, you know, they're easier. You can do them. Always work on the hard things. A couple other little things. Well, they're not little, they're big, but they're important too. But always make sure that you are listening to your flute teacher. Not only should you be taking your flute teacher's advice, but you should also take in your advice from your flute teacher as a whole. So she or he is going to be doing performances potentially, or they have recordings out, or they have publications or writings or just things out on the internet or performances that they do. Make sure you read their things. Make sure you go to the performances. Make sure you listen to their things. Make sure you do all the things, because you want to learn as much as you can from your flute teacher. And learning does not just happen in the flute lesson. Does not just happen when your flute teacher gives you instruction. Learning happens through listening and reading and other methods as well. So make sure that you are getting the full experience. Your flute teacher is a wealth of knowledge, so make sure that you are grasping that, and make sure that you are holding on to that and using that. Don't take your flute teacher for granted, and make sure you are taking full advantage of every opportunity. Don't miss a performance. Don't miss reading a publication. Don't miss anything. Take advantage of it and just grasp onto it. I hope you learned a lot today, and I hope you go forth and learn a lot from your flute teacher and continue to rock on.